daybreak, and I used the sword to pray. Then I went to his home. Then he now do some things, manipulate some things, and say that there is a lady that does not want my success in my family. All those kind of stuff. As I start generating weight, that they started collecting money from me until they took me to Osun State.
And they took you to Osun?
To Osun State.
From where? From Delta here?
From Delta here.
To Osun State?
To Osun State.
Okay.
Then they collected money from me there.
How much?
It's close to 500,000.
500,000.
Yes, all I spent there. Then we now came back. As we came back continuously, that is how we are collecting money from me, bit by bit. That I should bring that I don't use it to do something.
Okay, to save our time. How much have they collected from you so far?
Actually, by my calculation, I calculated 1.7 million naira.
1.7. So when you got to realize it now, 419.
When I realized was last month.
Okay.
Last month. That is when I realized. Then I now try on means to drag his attention to my house so that I will catch them.
Okay, so yes. So that was what you did.
That is what
so when you can't catch them, you can't call police.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much.
419 don't jam you for road before. Hey, have you ever experienced those one chance guys? Those people that they do different things to you, they hypnotize you, and then you're forced to bring out your whole money like this, right? There's been different experiences. On Twitter, a particular lady said, "Dear friends, I've just experienced a devastating scam. A sum of 950,000 naira was fraudulently withdrawn from my bank account through a mysterious account. I'm currently without shelter and feeling utterly drained and frustrated." That's that particular user. Another one says, "Sadly, we live in a time where we have to constantly watch our backs offline and even online. Unfortunately, she was scammed today of 700,000 naira, and she's been able to access this man's mobile number through his BVN, and he's a scammer. He's been reported countless times, yet his mobile number and bank account details still work." What exactly is going on in our country? Well, these and many more have been the cases of a lot of Nigerians who have been who has experienced one devastating impact of online scam to the other. In recent times, stories like these highlight the devastating impact of online scams in Nigeria, where a staggering increase in cybercrimes, as reported by Nairametrics in 2023, has left individuals and small businesses vulnerable. Now, the evolving landscape of fraud, ranging from phishing emails to identity theft, different situations across the country, is posing a significant risk to financial security and the personal well-being. There's so much going on in the country, and for some reason there's been an increase in the different kinds of scams that we've experienced here in the country. If you've in one way or the other been you've experienced this, then go ahead and call us up 0808 312 8618. We want to hear your experience, see how it's affecting you as someone who has experienced something like this. Scams in different forms, whether it's the one chance vehicles on Abuja roads. I mean, we have the security, we have the force talking about the fact that online scams like that rather have come to a down low. Go ahead and let me know your experiences so far. 0808 312 8618 is the number to call to be a part of our conversation. Meanwhile, we're also live on YouTube at Voice of the People Abuja. Voice of the People Abuja. You can join us live on YouTube, Voice of the People Abuja. We have Mr. Larry on the phone this morning. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Abuja. Good morning, Jason. Good morning to all our dear Nigerians who are listening to us. I'm amused because, sorry, I know you're supposed to control this show, but I can't restrain myself because I googled a scam and scamming just for the fun of it, and your country was identified as headquarters of scammers in the world. Sad.
Very, very sad. how does that even make you feel at this point in time? Looking at the fact that it takes talent, it takes sense, it takes brain, it takes a certain level of knowledge to be able to run a successful scam. It takes effort. You have to admit it takes a lot of effort to be able to do that. So how does that make you feel that Nigeria is at the helm of affairs when it comes to scamming in the world?
It's actually evidence of what we have done to ourselves as a nation. Very often, young people don't have opportunities to express their creativity and their skills. And even when they create opportunities for themselves or when they see opportunities, it appears that the system not only frustrates them, but the system actually appears to reward people who do illegitimate things. We run a system where the people who do the bad things appear to be rewarded or are even rewarded, not appear to be rewarded. In the short term, Nigeria rewards those who do the wrong things. Of course, in the long term, by virtue of natural principles, if you are consistent in doing good, you'll be rewarded. But Nigeria doesn't encourage people to do good. So young people very often gravitate towards doing that which appears to be rewarding. And one of the major factors that promote scamming in Nigeria is that we have a government that actually defaults its citizens in several ways. And I say this with all sense of responsibility. This is one of the few countries in the world where a government will collect money from people to allocate them landed property, and they will practically swallow the money, like we say in Nigeria, and the people will not see any property. It has happened with different states. Of course, we still have an ongoing case in Enugu State. We have the case with the federal government where a government will say, pay money so that I'll give you land. People will pay money, they won't get land. We live in a country where a government will award you a contract, ask you to execute the contract so that you'll be paid. And then you do the contract, and then you are not paid. I know quite a few Nigerians personally who died of complications arising from contracts, high blood pressure, stroke, and all of that. Contracts awarded by their own government, and they did the job diligently, and they were not paid for no reason other than the fact that this is Nigeria. And that is fraudulent. That is obtaining under false pretense. That's the government actually obtained the benefit of that contract under false pretense because they pretended that they would pay the person and they didn't pay. We live in a country where you do a job, do it diligently, and the governor will come in and say, my administration didn't award the contract. But that same governor will inherit all the projects and privileges, including the state house and the civil servants and everything that the previous governor left. So we live in a country where even the government, the way it operates, defrauds citizens in diverse ways. We live in a state, a nation where people are made promises openly every time. That is clear, open promises by government. And they use the promises to obtain either votes, compliance, and all of that. And at the end of the day, they fail on the promises and they don't really care. So we live in a country that consciously and subconsciously encourages fraud. Meanwhile, we call it 419 in Nigeria. And 419 alludes to section 419 of the criminal code, which speaks about obtaining under false pretense. So when a government issues a contract to people without intention to pay because they don't have money to pay, or they claim they don't have money to pay, and the person executes the contract, that is 419. When a Nigerian gets into a fake relationship with a woman with intention to fleece her of her hard-earned savings over a period of time, and the woman actually thinks that she has a cheater and eventually parts with her money, that is 419. They call that one I go marry. That's the local balance in Nigeria. Internationally, they call it romance scam. When you go to do business with a typical fraudulent Nigerian and you get some goods at very affordable prices, well packaged, and then you actually think that you struck a good deal, that prophecy that your pastor made in church that is actually here, that you knew you were going to get a miracle deal, and then suddenly you pay for something and you realize that instead of buying cement, you actually bought bags of sand. That is 419. They call that one come and buy. There was a fraudulent scam where you are sold a dummy for money, or they sell you land that they don't own. There are many versions of 419 where people are written letters to facilitate moving money out of Nigeria, money that was illicitly earned. So if you give me 1 million, if you help me pay certain monies, taxes and all of that, we'll move the money to your account and we'll share. And these foreigners who are very often enticed by the prospect of becoming millionaires in dollars will assist the person to pay the bogus taxes, and then eventually nothing happens, and that is called 419, advanced fee fraud, precisely. And you may want to know that we have the notoriety of having perpetrated the most impressive, devastating earth-shaking scam that involved more than $200 million that brought down a Brazilian bank. And this was done by a group of Nigerians who were eventually convicted. But the victims recovered less than $20 million. So the scamming in Nigeria, what we call 419, it's a terrible, terrible thing. You wake up in the morning. In fact, I know a young woman who nearly lost her mind because she promised her suitor that she was going to support their wedding, that she wanted a proper wedding. And the suitor, they proceeded with traditional marriage. And surprisingly, when she went to the bank to withdraw her savings of this happened about 10 years ago. So she wanted to withdraw her savings of close to $500,000 naira. No money was there. The money had been totally withdrawn. She passed out in the bank, and we helped track the fraudsters. Incidentally and unfortunately, these fraudsters have become so brazen, like you just mentioned, that very often they operate in broad daylight. Open your phone now. You see people who will invite you to come and buy cars. I handled a very pathetic case where a young man in Enugu sold his Toyota Camry to buy a more recent model from a customs officer who advertised that they were having some auction sales at customs headquarters. And this young man sold a car he was using, happily to buy a new one, and just donated the money to the scammer. And when I saw the report, I shook my head. And one of our staff said, "Oga, why are you shaking?" I said, "This is fraud." The man said, "You don't understand. I know her. I saw her picture, the DP. I saw this, bros." So when I couldn't just persuade him, our lawyer took him to the customs office when they screamed. And, one of the things I asked the customs officials is, why can't you trace the person who owns this account? It's not rocket science. Arrest the person and then bring this thing down. You guys see it on your phone every day. Why are you so complacent about it? No reply. So we are a nation that somehow, as a people, we have come to condone fraud as part of our national lifestyle. So the people defraud people, government defraud people, even spiritual houses, because I've not mentioned the spiritual fraud, where people actually pretend that by some supernatural powers they are going to enrich someone. They do a lot of abracadabra. They package it in different ways, representing different religious inclinations. And the people, because we are very superstitious and very religious, we believe them, and we donate our money to the fraudsters. That one happens in diverse ways. Sometimes they say they hypnotize them. Yes, I will tell you something that you may not want to hear. It's not hypnotism. It's a combination of greed and ignorance. Anytime you see a person being defrauded, it's either greed or outright ignorance, or both.
Oh yeah, wait, Mr. Larry, wait first. This particular one that you have called now, let me just enter your village and let's look at it properly. This particular one, when you talk about ignorance, let me paint a scenario. Someone is in a vehicle and the person all of a sudden is made to open up their accounts. Go home, pack every single thing that you own and bring it for us. What sort of ignorance is that? How would you explain that
Let
level of
me explain
ignorance? Or is
something
that
to you.
greed?
Sorry, let me give you a scenario that most of the time you don't think about. I've had the privilege of investigating quite a few of these incidents where a house girl says things like, they hypnotized me and I went and brought Madam's gold. I investigated one late last year. But unfortunately for the girl, she got costume jewelry because the particular madam in question was very smart. She actually attended the security training we did, and that's what saved her because she had gold, but the girl couldn't get at it. Now, let me explain something that people don't understand. When a person does something stupid, very often one of the things the person will do is to find a way to rationalize or protect herself. I'll give you one example. If a person is driving and the person makes a very bad decision, if you ask the driver what happened, the driver will say things like, my brake failed, or I saw a snake in my rearview mirror, or something covered my eye. Most people don't want to admit that they slept while driving. Most people don't want to admit that they were drunk while driving. Why do I say this? I've actually investigated 2-3 cases where victims eventually admitted that they were persuaded. I mean, let me give you an example. If you invest, if you can bring 500,000, we have washed this money, and the chemical the bottle broke, so the chemical poured away. So if we can get chemical to finish the washing, you get a share of this box of dollars. And then you look at the fact that you're going to suddenly have $2 million. And you say, I don't have money. They begin to make suggestions on how you can get money. Once your greed latches on, supported by your ignorance, you help get the money. How can you get money? You don't have money. Do you have any asset? Do you have somebody you can get money from? Do you know where your mother keeps gold or money or cash and all of that? I've had people confess to me that they were actually persuaded. But you see, when you wake up, like it's a popular narrative. So if I am successfully swindled and I realize that somehow I can't explain this, the natural explanation, because we are Africans, is to say I was hoodwinked by some kind of voodoo. Sorry, let me also ask you another question. How come we don't see this issue of hypnotism happening in Europe, America? How many scam cases in Europe, America have you seen that was explained by voodoo? Just think about it. How many? Not one. Because I've been involved in researching scams. There are associations in Europe and America that are dedicated to stopping scammers. Some of them actually focused on stopping Nigerian scammers. So this is something I've been involved in for years. And you don't hear anything about, they prayed and then, or they put, some people say they put handkerchief on my nose and I passed out. Yes, there are chemicals that you put on somebody's nose, and you know that, and in a few minutes, just put it in a handkerchief and then put it on somebody's nose. The powerful anesthesia, the person will pass out. That is not juju. So we need to understand that by virtue of how we behave as human beings, you don't want to take certain kinds of blame. So you now say they did magic, they hypnotized me, but they persuaded you. Just like the narrative you told us about. The young man was persuaded that he was already blessed. All you have to do was to facilitate the blessing. He was so dumb that he agreed that by going to shoot to fetch water from a river and washing his head, he probably wash off all the bad luck that has been blocking the network. He paid 500 and something thousand naira for that, and paid more and more and more. That's why I said it's a combination of ignorance and greed. When people, for instance, do not know about what is involved at all, so you are new, in terms of online transactions, and somebody calls you and says there is this number. I was almost a victim recently where I was called on a very busy day. I actually finished speaking at a conference and my head was somehow still recovering from that. And I got a call. The person sent a message and said it's an important call. I referenced a man who I respect so much by name, which means that somebody who knew me was involved. And because of that, I went outside to take the call. And guess what? They said that they wanted to send me a message. I had an important speaking engagement that Professor so, and I said, okay, so I went to send it to WhatsApp. There was a problem. So we need a code to that. They were looking for my two-step verification code. Because they wanted to hack my account. It wasn't working. They were blocked. And they did this so proficient. So after some time, I said, I'm busy. What exactly do you send the message? The WhatsApp is there. He said, no, we have a glitch. So I said, okay. He said, just send me the code, any code at all. I said, if it's any code, type 1, 2, 3, 4 there. I have to get back to work. And then there was something he said, no, there's a code you used to open the thing hit me. Gagam. I was like, yes, Jesus. And I went to my WhatsApp immediately and I had to reset. They had already tried to hack. It stopped them. They were asking me if I had given it to them, it would have been a product of ignorance. But the rule number one is don't give out your personal information, PIN, BVN, NIN, birthdays. Why did I say birthdays? You won't believe it. If you are listening to me and use your birth date to do a PIN, please go and change it. There was a case we handled at Oka where somebody picked up, I don't want to mention the office, it's a government office, picked up the neighbor's ATM card, also picked up her driver's license. The lady said, look after my bag. I have to go to some, this sneaking out, stepping out of the office. I'll come back in 3 hours' time. The neighbor took her ATM, took her driver's license, and went to the bank and practically took all her money, right into hundreds of thousands.
Wow.
Because she used her birthday. And she didn't, the person just tried and it went through. Just combinations of birthday. What saved the situation? The camera picked the person. And it was the next door neighbor in the office. So when you divulge personal information, we are helping scammers. Who, for instance, identity theft experts can use your identity to now do the tech scamming. There's a lot of internet fraud going on. There's a lot of that one is an entirely different matter. But the one that I find painful is that Nigerians will sit down and use the same energy and creativity that they could have used to create genuine wealth to go around defrauding people.
All right, Mr. Larry, before we get into...
Unfortunately, we as a nation, we are promoting that industry, and it's shameful. Our politicians, our leaders, in fact, a lot of institutions in Nigeria are consciously and subconsciously promoting fraudulent interactions and engagement.
Mr. Larry, before we get into that, trying to figure out what exactly is the driving force for a scam and then how exactly we are being complacent in one way or the other, we'll touch like that in a moment. But I just wanted to let the listeners know that you can call us 0808 312 8618 0808 312 8618 is the number to call to be part of our conversation this morning. And let's know if you've experienced this scam in one way or the other. Do you agree with Mr. Larry when he says if you fall victim, it's either through your greed as an individual or ignorance? I mean, these are two very, very slim options that he gave us. No wiggle room for voodoo in there. So let me know what your thought is on that. 0808 312 8618 is the number to call. You can also join us on YouTube at Voice of the People Abuja and leave a comment or two, as well as hit that subscribe button. Mr. Larry, what exactly is the driving force for scams? Now, I'm talking online Okay, let me just say scams generally, because there was one individual that was recently accosted by the United States. He was sentenced in the United States to 11 years for conspiracy to launder money obtained from business email compromise, frauds, and other scams, including schemes that defrauded a U.S. law firm out of approximately 40 million naira, illegally transferred $14.7 million from a foreign financial institution, and targeted to steal $124 million from an English Premier League club. This individual is popularly known as Hush Puppy. He was recently sentenced to the United States for 11 years for that. But Mr. Larry, before we get into that, let's take this phone call. Hello, good morning.
You guys have a team to beat, yeah? You and Mr. Larry.
Say again.
So, after you and Mr. Larry, you guys are the team to beat. So I'm listening to you this morning about the fraud and all the 419. And I want to say that Mr. Larry is even being gracious by talking about ignorance. It's mostly good, because if someone tells you they're going to give you 1 million naira out of the 10,000 and you believe it, then whatever comes to you, you really deserve it. In the case of scamming, say, getting into your WhatsApp and all that, that one is completely different. So that one, people can fall into that trap. I almost fell into that trap because someone sent me airtime, and because I didn't order any airtime, I didn't agree to load it. I called the person and said, I didn't order any airtime. What is this? And he said, oh, that was an error. It was actually meant for my grandfather. And sorry. Anyway, someone now called me shortly after, sounding, he says he's 102 years old, sounding really old. So I spoke to him and I thanked him. He blessed me for being a good Nigerian, for not using the data, the pins, you know. And then he said, after talking to me and blessing me, he continued calling me. And I was answering back. This is a very old man. I would answer his blessing, and then tomorrow he'll call me. And then the next thing he now tells me, I need to pray for you so that ABCD will happen. You need to buy salt. That's when I knew that, no, this is not the deal. By the way, my name is Nancy. So that was the way I cut it off. So many people have been scammed this way. They tell them, come to Oshun, and this same Oshun State. So it is really very scary. But if you are not greedy, something will click, because they're going to make a request that is not logical. If you are not greedy, at that point, it will click that this is fraud, and you will cut off. So we need to be very careful as Nigerians, because people eye the red. Thank you. You guys have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Nancy, for your contribution. Really, really interesting. 0808-312-8618. Mr. Larry.
Very interesting. I think I must thank him for sharing his experience, because all of these things are learning experiences for a lot of people. But one of the things I must say at this point is that it's something I don't want to forget or miss out on, because it's very important. If you are listening to me, don't forget this. Greed is very dangerous. Once a scammer is able to get you to start imagining what you can do with $1 million or $2 million, how you can pepper them, how you can prove all those people who thought you can't succeed wrong, how you can live good life forever without working. Once that virus enters your brain, you don't think again. The only thing that you'll be thinking about is how to get your hands on that money. Greed is dangerous. Equally, ignorance is dangerous. Ignorance means a lack of knowledge. The good book says that people perish because of it. And there are different kinds of perishing. There's also financial perishing. So we must have knowledge, but most importantly, we must by all means avoid the greed. What are the things that facilitate scamming? One is that we have learned to celebrate wealth no matter the source. No matter how the wealth comes, we celebrate wealth. You mentioned a young man called Hush Puppy. How many followers did he have on social media? What were they discussing? What value was he adding to their lives? He was showing them how he was flying private jets, wearing designer clothing, but nobody knew precisely what he was doing. I was one of those who stated severally that I don't understand this young man and nobody should follow him, whether in real life or on social media. Nobody listened to me. Okay, look at where he landed. I hope those guys followed him to jail. There's another one that appeared on the scene like a boat from the blues. His name is Invictus, and he was even celebrated by Forbes. But I've always told people that if you see any wealth without a foundation, any history without a story, be careful. If the story is disjointed, after some time, the person disappeared and came back and he was rich, he was now doing fuel dumps and he had 10, 30 filling stations and he has a Rolls Royce. And you can't join the journey with the destination. And then something is wrong. We celebrate wealth wherever and however it came. That is one of the major foundations for get money by all means. And that is one of the things that facilitate scamming. But the other thing is that there are no consequences for bad behavior in Nigeria. Actually, when a scammer is arrested, the first thing the police will ask him is how much remains. Sorry, with all due respect to good policemen, I know there are good police officers. So if you're out there and listening to me, you're a good officer, kudos to you. I know you are there. But unfortunately, a lot of your colleagues will ask the person, how much remain? How much remain means if I know what is remaining and we can work it out, then we'll sort it out. That how much remain represents the corruption that has pervaded Nigeria. So people, that is, you ask a young man, what do you do for a living? He says, Yahoo. You ask another young man, he says 419. That is an introduction. So wow. Your name is, so what do you do? Say, I'm a scammer. He said, like how? In fact, the first time somebody actually told me that his job was 419, I nearly passed out. I was in a state of shock. The guy looked at it. That was way back in the late 90s. Then it was 419. I was like, how? I was a young man. I was wondering. Somebody says this. He said, no, that is, I write letters to my victims. That was a slang. I said, I didn't understand it. He now said 419. I nearly passed out. We live in a country where people openly say that I defraud people because they don't expect consequences. The institutions that are supposed to apprehend fraudsters know that they are fraudsters. They pay money to be protected. They pay tight, in quote, if you know what I mean, to security agents. So when I scam, I give a part of the money to the. If not, how come a horse puppy had a relationship with our super cop? How does it work? That a super criminal will be whining and dying and clubbing with a super cop. It won't happen in the US. It won't happen in Europe. Even if you have a relationship, it will be seriously under wraps. Even your meetings will be coded and covered. But Nigeria is a place where a super criminal will go to a club with a super cop and two of them will be spraying money on other super criminals. Corruption and the fact that there's no consequence for bad behavior is a major factor. But the fact that young people don't have opportunities also catalyzes this reaction. So you are creative, you are full of ideas, you want to do things with your mind. And then it appears that everywhere you turn, you're frustrated. You are qualified, for instance, to get a good job with LNG or NNPC. And all you hear about is job opportunities at police or civil defense, while the children of the rich get all the plum jobs. So sometimes frustration pushes young people into unleashing their creativity on anybody who could become their victim. We should intentionally harness talent. We went to the Olympics and came back after a 12 billion jamboree with absolutely nothing but shame to show for the jamboree. When we have Nigerians who trek every day on Third Mainland Bridge and different bridges in Lagos, some of those people who trek for how many kilometers a day, if you harness them and train them, they will go and do trekking at the Olympics for us. They say that blacks don't do gymnastics. Go and ask Simon Biles whether blacks excel in gymnastics or not. We have people who swim in Niger Delta. They are born in water. We have people who do all sorts of things well. But we don't give them opportunities. We just walk around. 4 weeks to the Olympics, we give them money and carry them to France for tourism. And we say we are prepared because we get the money. So we don't harness potentials of young people. And when there's extreme frustration, and in the midst of this extreme frustration, they see politicians living large, driving bulletproof cars, pastors will preaching about Bugatti and Ferrari. Then you'll be seeing private jets every day on social media. You'll be seeing holiday spots, the finest in the world. They'll be talking about Seychelles, about Honolulu and Hawaii, and all sorts of fancy names. They also want to be part of it. And when they add all of these factors, that the fact that I'm frustrated, I have talent, I can do all things, all great things, I want to do that, nobody's giving me a chance, but even if I do the bad one, there won't be consequences, I'll even be celebrated. When you add all of these factors, you get a Nigerian youth that is a professional common. Of course, we have also been taught to be very superstitious. I mean, people go to church and other faith-based venues, and all they hear is that they'll be blessed even if they don't work, that we live in houses we didn't build, that these are. So we also program people to expect manna from heaven. So if you just left a place where somebody told you that God will surprise you, that in the next 1 week you'll be a millionaire, and they come and tell you that if you give me your 100,000, I'll wash money and you get 10 million. It sounds like that prophecy is about to be fulfilled. So we prepare the ground for all of these things to happen. Am I saying that people don't do a quantum leap and become wealthy? It happens, but not the way we program it in this country. Anytime a human being makes money, the person should have made a contribution to the process. I call it earning money. You can either inherit money or earn money or steal money. Money doesn't just show up on the sky. So anytime you're expecting money, ask yourself, is it an inheritance? If it's not an inheritance, is it due to my hard work? If it's not my hard work, is it stealing? Am I taking something that doesn't belong to me? Of course, the fourth one is luck. I don't want to talk about it. So when Nigerians are taught, they are taught to how to actually process information, how to think. When they have information that if I steal money, the law will come after me and there will be consequences, they will begin to think twice about stealing money. If they are taught well to know that if you go and take money that doesn't belong to you, you defraud someone, and you don't have capacity to nurture wealth, to create and nurture wealth, you eventually lose the money. Go and check a lot of the scammers. They continue scamming people because they cannot transit from scamming to business because they are not able to nurture money. If you're a businessman, you separate your capital from your profit and you live within your profit. If you're a scammer, everything is profit. So we need to go to that point where National Orientation Agency will wake up. Nigerian faith-based organizations, churches, mosques, traditional worshippers, everybody should wake up. We are on the edge of a precipice. People are actually, you just decided to talk about scamming. Maybe one day you also talk about ritual money. People are now thinking of killing their own parents to make money. But focusing on scams is something that we can actually fight back, but it's a hydra-headed monster. So if you want to fight it, you need to create a hydra-headed solution. It's sad. It's a very complex situation now because even the society doesn't see it as being wrong. That is on a good day, if you get 10 Nigerians and you ask them, this person made his money through fraud. Meanwhile, he's donating money to different churches and to different mosques and different charities. Out of 10 Nigerians, 7 or 8 will tell you that he's not doing anything wrong. I think he's using the money well. So we have lost our capacity to frown at what is wrong. It's something that I'm very passionate about and I'm very worried about too. It's sad. If you're Nigerian, you have dropped your green passport anywhere, the first thing that comes to mind is a fraudster is here. And it's very sad.
Really, really sad image of Nigerians out there. What exactly is our responsibility as Nigerians in terms of preventing this from growing into something much more than we can handle?
Well, at the personal level, we have to take responsibility for how we behave and what we approve. What we approve of, what we disapprove of. Because at a personal level, first of all, you can make a commitment to earn your money. That is the fraud is not good, and it's scary because every time you see a security agent, your heart skips. And then we should also, as individuals, not celebrate ill-gotten wealth. The person can decide to enjoy the wealth, but you won't see me any day going for a party that somebody is celebrating, and then I know this person is a common, and yes, you're going to wine and dine and have the finest gift to walk away with. I won't be there. I cannot lend my humble presence to that celebration because it's a celebration of evil. I won't be part of it. So we need to make personal commitment. But most importantly, those who are in positions of influence should not only speak out, they should be role models. If who is engaged in fraud gives you a gift, reject it. Reject it. There's nothing wrong with it. If it's a product of a person's come other job, that's what he does for a living, and he wants to give me a gift.
All right, I think we lost that call right there. I'll try to reestablish contact so we can get the final words of Mr. Larry on this, and then we reach out to Nonso. Apologies, I'm having a cold. I'm having a cold right now, so my voice is a bit muffled. All right, Mr. Larry.
Yes. So, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Go ahead.
So I think we need to get to that point where our leaders especially take responsibility by showing good examples. That is one thing I don't want to miss. It's very important. Our leaders must show good examples. A situation where government still defrauds citizens is wrong. That is, we have several cases where government will practically get into transactions with citizens and citizens will lose out. And the way they behave sometimes, it looks as if there was intention to defraud. That is wrong. And the government should also ensure that there are consequences for fraud, for crime. We need to clean up our security agencies, starting from the police. When people are defrauded and they go to the police, what they tell them is that, so bring money for mobilization so that we can go and investigate. Meanwhile, if you are bringing 100,000 and the person who defrauded you is willing to bring 500,000, it means you don't have a case anymore. We need to come out of that mode of operation. It won't help us as a nation. It's already actually damaging us terribly. So there's so much we can do, both as individuals and as a nation, to begin to apply the brakes on fraud. And we need to also show other nations that we do not condone fraud. A lot of foreigners actually have associations. They work hard to enlighten their citizens. Don't do this, don't do that. Sometimes people don't even open emails from Nigeria, whatever the proposal. Sometimes you're discussing a legitimate business. Once you say, I'm a Nigerian, the person loses interest. But Nigeria as a nation is not doing anything to consciously either minimize this process or punish offenders. So there's so much we can do. There's really so much we can do. And the sooner we start, the better, because we have that bad reputation as the nation with the highest concentration of scammers in the world. And we also have the bad reputation of being the nation that is the poverty headquarters of the world. And incidentally and surprisingly, actually, the poverty supports the scam industry, and the scam industry increases the poverty. Because when people see us as a scam nation, foreign investments will reduce. So many opportunities will be lost. And these are two
Mr.
evils
Larry,
that feed on one another. And we have to do something to stop the cycle.
all right. Our time is fast spent. We have to connect with Nonso Arinzechi in just a moment for the sports bits. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you. And I hope we're all listening to the voice of the people. Today's program is not something that we wait for government to implement. Let's start from ourselves. Listen to the voice of the people. Ask yourself a simple question. Am I earning my money? Or am I reaping where I didn't sow? If you have been reaping where you didn't sow, return what you have reaped and please start earning your money. Do have a wonderful, wonderful day.
All right, it's a really interesting conversation we've had this morning. If you missed out on that, you can catch up on our YouTube. It is at Voice of the People Abuja. The title of the show for today is 419 Scamming Epidemic in the Country and how exactly we can navigate that. So check it out on YouTube at Voice of the People Abuja. Meanwhile, something really interesting is happening in football. Burna Boy has floated a football academy. Nigerian singer and Grammy Award winner Burna Boy has floated his own football academy, and I'll be giving you more details in just a moment. I'm trying to establish contact with Nonso so we can get, even if it's 5 minutes or sports bit. That conversation with Mr. Larry was way too interesting to interrupt, but Nonso Arinzechi will be joining us with some sports gist. However, we have Burna Boy Damini Ogulu, who is known as Burna Boy. He's launched a football academy with training centers in Lagos, Abuja, and Port Harcourt. Infographics about the academy surfaced on the internet on Monday, and further checks have revealed that the academy is open to players from ages 4 to 15, as well as players between 16 to 12. I'm sure we're having a segue off what happened during the Olympics, where Nigeria spent so much money and came back without anything to show for it. So there's that conversation there. According to Burna Boy, says, we aim to create an environment where kids can learn the fundamentals of football combined with education, discipline, and technique to excel in life beyond the sports. The Academy's vision on their website reads that they strive to engage parents in sports education, emphasizing its importance alongside academic pursuits. Well, that's a very, very interesting one right there. We're hoping and wishing him a great success in that aspect. Meanwhile, Osimhen is risking a Napoli fine after nightclub brawl. Victor Osimhen risks being fined by Napoli after the Nigerian international was filmed having an altercation with a fan in a nightclub. This is according to newsmen and their reports. Yes, so Seaman has been the subject of transfer speculations, with the Lagos-born striker linked with a move to Chelsea. The 25-year-old was absent for Napoli's Coppa Italia first-round fixture against Modena at the Stadio Marado on Saturday night due to his unresolved future, with Napoli director Giovanni Manna confirming he had requested to leave the club. His hefty 130 million euros release clause has scared off many suitors, with Chelsea the only European club still keen on signing him after PSG backpedaled. I mean, I don't know what the future is holding for a Victor Osimhen. Hopefully he'll do something good will come his way. You see why you don't fight your family? This is why you don't fight your family, because there seems to be a lot of not wanting to touch a Victor Osimhen in this regard. Anyway, we have Nonso joining us. Nonso Arinzechi, welcome.
Thank you very much.
All right, just jumping in, Burna Boy has started his own football academy. It will be operational in Lagos, Abuja, and Port Harcourt. He'll be receiving players from the ages of 4 to 15 and 16 to 21 years. Just a couple of days ago, so you and I were talking about the fact that we do not pick the young and invest in them, especially Olympic material, right? We do not target them and invest in them early. But Burna Boy seems to be wanting to do so. It's a football academy that will be encompassing education as well as football. What's your take on it?
I think it seems like now that sport is now a lucrative business, yes, sir. And every man who has money, even who just find a way to delve into sports. We've seen business tycoon, we've seen footballing icons, we've seen legends of different sports delving into football. And that's the way to go, you know. For Burna Boy, like you did say, he said he's giving back to the society. I wonder what it is. Football is business. If he ends up selling one of the players to make extra cash in his money, it's something like too much money. So for me, development is good. It's something that we must something we must really be happy about. And kudos have to go. I think it's something that should come with it. It has to be.
Wow. No, so the network is really bad on your end. I can't really hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Is it much better now?
Yes. Go ahead.
I said, all we need to do is to get more of our billionaires to invest in sports. Maybe some could be athletics. We talked about the Olympics a few moments ago, like a week, 2 or 3 days ago, for a week now. We're talking about it, and we talked about the fact that Olympics starts from 4, 5, 6 years. Who knows? You could start grooming young athletes who at 6 for who are running. Before you know it, in the next 4, 5 years, they are participating at the under 12, under 14, under 18 competition, and before they hit 2021, they are at the Olympics doing Nigeria proud. So I think it's a way to go, and I hope other celebrities follow suit as well to ensure that we start getting private sectors into our sports and then expanding our horizon so that we can become one of the best countries participating in sports.
All right. No, so unfortunately, that's as much time as we have today. Hopefully, you give them all the gist that you failed to give them this morning on the Sports Lounge 5 p.m. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
All right. So if you want to find out how you can avoid getting scammed, then you should go catch up on our YouTube shows, Voice of the People Abuja. Click that subscribe button. It's really important that you do so. Thank you so much for listening to Voice of the People 96.1 FM. Don't forget to share our links, however, in whatever way that you can, share it out. Let people see what we're doing here. Thank you so much for listening. Coming up at 9 is supposed to be Oge Ndigbo. Thank you so much for listening to VOP 96.1